My husband's mother said I wasn't wife material, then the room froze when a billionaire. She said it like it was fact, not cruel, just obvious. People laughed. Trent looked away. And then, before anyone could say another word, the doors opened. And the man they all feared walked in. I remember every second. The way her voice cut through the music. The way everyone went quiet, then smirked. As if I wasn't even in the room. As if I wasn't real. She leaned forward. Smiled. "There's nothing wrong with her," she said. "She's just not wife material." I felt the heat in my chest. The kind that doesn't rise. It burns. Trent didn't speak. Not a word. He sipped his wine. Looked at the table. That was the moment I knew. I didn't need them to like me. I needed to stop shrinking for people who'd already decided I wasn't enough. And that night, someone else decided it was time they saw exactly who I was. I don't remember the exact day I became invisible. Maybe it was the first time someone looked at me and saw a project, not a person. Or maybe it was the day they picked me up from the orphanage and told me to smile, but not too much. I was 9 when Gregory and Evelyn Whitaker walked into my life. He was a real estate mogul. Cold, brilliant, meticulous. She was elegant, always dressed in cream and pearls, with a voice soft like silk and sharp like glass. The tabloids called them the ice couple. To me, they were just the people who signed my adoption papers. They never told anyone I was adopted. Not once. I was presented as a distant cousin brought in under special family circumstances. At events, I sat quietly in the corner. Never too close to the cameras. Never too far from their control. Our mansion had 10 bathrooms, a grand piano no one touched, and a staircase made of imported marble. But it didn't have a single photo of me on the walls. Not one. I had everything money could buy except belonging. Birthday gifts came wrapped in gold foil, but there was never a handwritten card. Dinners were 3 courses, candlelit and perfectly plated, but silent. I learned to say thank you with my posture. I learned to cry quietly into my pillow under 800 thread count sheets. I wasn't abused. Not in any way you could report. They gave me tutors, etiquette classes, therapy sessions with top psychologists. But never love. Just expectations. The rules were simple. Do not embarrass the family. Do not speak about the orphanage. Do not ever, under any circumstance, call them mom or dad. I didn't. I wanted to be the perfect daughter, even if I was never really theirs. So I followed the rules. I played the part. I studied hard, earned perfect grades, joined clubs that made them look good, smiled at fundraisers, curtsied to donors, said thank you to people who called me well-polished like I was a show dog. And I stayed quiet. Even when my heart wanted to scream. When I met Trent in college, he was the first person who didn't treat me like a resume. He was messy, charming, a little too loud. He asked real questions and listened without judgment. I told him the truth about my past, not all at once, but slowly, like peeling paint off an old wall. He never flinched, never pitted me. He just said, "You're strong. That's all I see." For the first time, I let myself hope. We dated for 3 years. He met my adoptive parents once, briefly. They didn't ask questions. Didn't seem to care. But when it came time for me to meet his family, everything changed. They were old money. Not just rich, but rooted in status, tradition, bloodlines. The Langstons threw elegant dinners with handwritten seating cards, hosted silent auctions, sat on museum boards. Everything about them screamed legacy. Trent told me they were a little intense. He downplayed it at first, brushed off their comments, their snide remarks about women with unclear origins. And I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe love would be enough. That once they saw who I was, not where I came from, they'd accept me. But that wasn't how the Langstons worked. They didn't see people. They saw pedigrees. And I wasn't born with one. Still, I tried. I memorized their charities, their favorite wines, the correct fork placements. I dressed the part, spoke softly, stayed agreeable. But no matter what I did, I could feel it. That lingering sense that I wasn't quite right. That I didn't belong at their table. That I was someone Trent could date, but not someone he was supposed to marry. The first time I noticed the shift, it was subtle. Trent stopped inviting me to Sunday dinners. He said his mom was feeling under the weather. 3 weeks in a row. Then came the holiday trips. He went. I stayed. No explanation. Just a kiss on the forehead and an awkward promise. I'll make it up to you. He didn't. At first, I made excuses for him. They're old-fashioned. They just need time. It's not about me really. But I felt it. Every holiday alone. Every skipped invitation. Every time his phone lit up with his mom's name. And he stepped into another room to answer it. One night, I asked, straight out, why haven't you introduced me to your family properly? He looked away, then back at me, then away again. You know how they are, Jade. They're traditional. They care about status, where someone comes from, who their family is. You're incredible, but they won't see that. It stung, not because it was new, but because it was said by the man I thought would fight for me. So I'm good enough to love in private, but not to stand beside you in public? I asked. My voice didn't rise. It cracked. He reached for my hand. It's not like that. I'm just trying to protect you. My mom can be harsh. I pulled away. I'd heard that tone before. The one that says you're too fragile to know the truth, so let me soften the blow while I still hide you. Still, I stayed. Not because I agreed, but because I wasn't ready to let go. Then he proposed. It was quiet, just us, in the park where we'd first met. The ring was simple. His eyes were nervous. I said yes, but in the back of my mind, I kept asking, who exactly am I marrying? A partner or a peacekeeper? Meeting his family wasn't optional anymore. It was inevitable. The night of the dinner came quickly. A formal, pre-wedding gathering. The Langstons rented out the top floor of a private club in Manhattan, chandeliers, champagne, and rooms full of people I'd never met, all with names that mattered in places I'd never be invited back to. Trent held my hand as we walked in, but it felt loose, detached, like he was doing it for the cameras, not for me. His mother greeted me with a practiced smile and a look that stripped me bare. His father didn't bother. They asked where I was from. I answered truthfully, but quietly. When Trent added, she was adopted, the room paused. And then Evelyn Langston set her wine glass down, looked me in the eye, and said, so, no background. Just like that. 3 words. Like a verdict. Something in me snapped. Not loudly, but clean like glass under pressure. I smiled. Not politely, but with restraint. Because I knew, this wasn't over. Not even close. The rest of the dinner blurred. Conversations continued around me, light, elegant, meaningless. I answered a few questions, smiled when expected, laughed on cue. But inside, I was shrinking, minute by minute. Then it happened. A woman, Trent's aunt, maybe leaned over and whispered to her husband, just loud enough. I wonder which maid wandered in here. He chuckled, didn't even glance at me. Trent heard it. His jaw clenched, but he didn't say a word. I tried to hold it together. I excused myself, walked to the restroom, and stared at my own reflection. The dress I wore was soft blue, modest, timeless, carefully chosen to blend in without disappearing. But it didn't matter. To them, I would always be out of place. When I returned, the main course had just been served. No one noticed I was gone. Then his mother spoke again. Such a lovely evening, she said, turning toward me. Though I do hope you're not expecting the Langston name to fix your lack of foundation. We build legacy here, not charity cases. That was it. I didn't stand. I didn't shout. I simply turned to Trent, looked him dead in the eyes. Nothing. No apology. No anger. Not even surprise. Just silence. And then, he reached into his jacket, pulled out his wallet, slipped a folded bill into my hand. Just go, he whispered. Please, don't make a scene. The room didn't pause. The music didn't stop. But my world did. I looked at the money, then back at him. And in that moment, something ended. Not the relationship. Not yet. But the illusion. The hope. The belief that, deep down, he would choose me. I placed the money on the table, smoothed my napkin, and left without a word. He didn't follow. Not that night. Not ever, really. And I knew. The woman they dismissed had just disappeared from the room. But not from the story. I didn't cry that night. Not when I got into the taxi. Not when I walked barefoot through our apartment, still wearing the same soft blue dress. Not even when I passed the framed photo of our engagement, the one where Trent was smiling like he'd just won something rare. I sat on the edge of our bed, staring at the floor. The room felt hollow. Too quiet. Too clean. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I called Evelyn, my adoptive mother. She picked up on the second ring. Jade. Her voice was instantly alert. Are you all right? I didn't answer right away. I couldn't. But I didn't have to. She knew. I told her everything. Every word his mother said. Every silence Trent gave me. The bill. The whisper. The way no one, not even him, stood up. I didn't cry on the phone either. But she did. We're flying home, she said. Your father and I will be on the first flight out. No, I whispered. Wait. Just let me think. because part of me still wanted to believe this wasn't who they really were. That maybe it was a mistake, a bad moment, a misunderstanding. But that part of me was shrinking. And another part, the one they taught me to suppress, was starting to rise. The next morning, I brewed tea, sat by the window, and made a list. I listed every time they made me feel small, every comment, every omission, every seat I wasn't given, every introduction skipped. And then I listed every resource I had, not emotional ones, practical ones. I had access, power, not the kind they understood, inherited, bloodline, pedigree, but earned. I was raised by people who built empires from nothing, people who never needed to shout to be heard. By noon, I called my parents back. "I'm ready," I said. 3 days later, they arrived. Gregory stepped off the plane in a gray cashmere coat, sunglasses, and an expression like carved steel. Evelyn wore ivory, soft, unassuming, but somehow sharper than anyone else in the room. We met at a quiet cafe near Central Park. They didn't push. They just sat, listened. I didn't tell them who I was, I said finally. I wanted them to accept me as me, without the name, without the weight. Gregory nodded slowly, then leaned forward. Then it's time they learn the weight they'd just tried to cast aside. I didn't ask questions. He didn't explain. But that night, a courier delivered a leather-bound folder to my apartment. Inside, copies of property holdings, press dossiers, legal statements, and one signed notice from Gregory Whitaker's legal team. It was addressed to Trent Langston. And it began with 4 words. This is not a warning. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was afraid, but because I could feel the shift. The moment when silence turns into strategy. The moment when heartbreak becomes leverage. The Langstons had made a mistake. They thought they were dealing with a stray. Someone lucky to be chosen. Someone forgettable. But they forgot something. I didn't come from nothing. I came from people who chose me. Not because of what I could offer them, but because of what they saw in me long before anyone else did. And now, they were coming. Not with raised voices. Not with threats. But with presence. The kind that doesn't ask for attention. It commands it. The Langstons were hosting another event, a private anniversary gala for Trent's grandparents. Invitation only. Black tie. Held in one of Manhattan's oldest, most exclusive clubs. The kind with marble staircases, cigar rooms, and oil paintings of people long dead and endlessly privileged. Trent hadn't called me since the dinner. Not once. But an invitation arrived anyway, one of those cold, formal gestures that scream, "We're pretending everything's fine, so you should too." I almost didn't go. But then Evelyn called. "They invited you?" she asked. I nodded. "They expect me to come alone." Evelyn smiled. "Good. We won't." That night, I didn't wear anything dramatic. No glitter. No deep red. Just a simple, tailored black dress. Hair swept back. Pearl earrings. Clean. Quiet. Controlled. But when I entered, I wasn't alone. Gregory walked beside me. Evelyn just behind. Both poised like royalty who didn't need a crown to be recognized. The chatter in the room slowed. Not stopped, just staggered. People noticed. Their eyes flicked from my face to Gregory's, then back to me. Some narrowed. Others widened. Then we reached the main table, where Trent sat. His eyes locked on mine, pale and startled. Paula, his mother, rose from her chair, napkin still in hand. "Oh," she said, voice dripping in performance. "Madison, I didn't know you'd be joining us." "My name," I said evenly, "is Jade." I turned slightly, gestured to the people beside me. "These are my parents, Gregory and Evelyn Whitaker." Paula's smile cracked. Someone across the room dropped a fork. No one picked it up. There was a long, impossibly tense silence. Gregory stepped forward, placed a single leather folder on the table in front of Trent. "You will find everything in order," he said. "Legal documents, financial updates, divorce filings." Trent didn't move, didn't blink. Evelyn looked at Paula, her voice soft but piercing. "A mother may not like her son's choice in love, but no one insults my daughter to her face and expects silence in return. No shouting, no scenes, just stillness." Like the air had turned solid. Paula looked down. Trent looked lost. And I? I breathed. Not shakily. Not with grief. With clarity. Like someone who had finally come up for air. And wasn't planning on going under again. I walked out of that room the same way I walked in. Head high. Steps measured. No need to look back. I didn't need to see Trent's face to know what was on it. Shock. Shame. The slow unraveling of someone who had just realized what, and who, he'd lost. But I wasn't there to gloat. This wasn't revenge. This was release. Outside, The city lights blinked like nothing had happened. Cabs passed. Laughter floated from open windows. The world kept moving. I did too. That night, I didn't go back to our apartment. I checked into a small hotel near Central Park. Just me, a clean white bed, and silence that didn't ache. In the morning, I made tea. Pulled out the divorce papers my father had left with me. I didn't hesitate. Didn't stall. Didn't spiral into a memory reel of the good times. Because yes, there had been good moments. But good moments don't undo erasure. Kindness in private means nothing if cruelty is allowed in public. I signed my name. Each stroke steady. Final. Later that day, Trent texted. Just 3 words. Can we talk? I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. He made his choice. Not just once, but over and over, in every silence. Every time he let his family speak for him. Every time he looked away when I needed him to look at me. The next few days passed quietly. My mother cooked. My father handled the lawyers. And I sat still, learning what it felt like to exist without permission. I thought grief would hit harder. But it didn't. Because the truth is, I had already done my mourning. In every ignored phone call. Every dinner alone. Every time I bit my tongue to keep his peace. What I felt now wasn't grief. It was peace. Real peace. Not the kind you beg for in a relationship. The kind you choose for yourself. When the papers were finalized, I didn't cry. I didn't even sigh. I just stood up, walked outside, and let the sun hit my face. No ring. No husband. No apology. But also no more shrinking. No more pretending. I wasn't someone's secret anymore. I was my own story now. And that was more than enough. 3 days after the divorce was finalized, my parents took me to the airport. It wasn't an escape. It was a pause. A quiet intermission between what had ended and whatever came next. We spent the first week in Vienna. The mornings were cold, the coffee strong, and the conversations unhurried. My mother held my hand over breakfast, sometimes without saying a word. My father read the paper, occasionally glancing up just to check if I was still breathing easier. I was. From there, we traveled. Greece, Spain, the southern coast of France. Not to prove anything. Not to flaunt privilege. But to remember who I was before I tried so hard to be accepted. One afternoon, on a cliffside in Santorini, I stood alone and looked out over the sea. The wind tangled my hair. My phone buzzed in my bag. I didn't check it. I didn't need to. Some things and some people didn't deserve space in this version of my life. Back home, word had spread. Photos from the gala. Whispers in the investor circles. Apparently, when you insult the adopted daughter of Gregory Whittaker, people take notice. The Langston family retreated into silence. 2 business deals fell through. Rumors swirled about internal disputes and sudden restructuring. None of it came from us. We said nothing. We didn't need to. Respect doesn't scream. It simply withdraws. And lets the absence do the talking. A week later, Trent came to my building. He never called. Never texted. He just stood outside, suit wrinkled, shoulders hunched, holding the ring box like it meant something now. I watched him from behind the curtain. He didn't knock. Just waited. For someone who was always too silent. It was fitting that silence was all he got back. He left after an hour. And I didn't feel cruel. I felt free. One night, over dinner in a quiet French village, my mother looked at me and said, "You never had to prove you were worthy. They just weren't capable of recognizing it." I smiled. For once, I didn't feel like I was faking it. I didn't hate Trent. I didn't hate his family. But I would never go back. Because now I wasn't asking to be chosen. I was choosing peace, clarity, and a future that didn't require me to disappear to fit in. They couldn't see my worth. But that never made me worthless.